Imagine walking through a national park and knowing exactly where every bear or wolf is located. With today's technology, that scenario isn't just possible, it's already happening across the United States and beyond. More and more wild animals are being fitted with GPS collars that monitor their every movement continuously. These devices provide researchers with precise location data, helping them study migration, habitat use, and population trends. But now a controversial question is emerging. Should GPS tracking of wild animals become legally required? Supporters say mandatory tracking could revolutionize conservation by offering real-time insight into animal behavior and health. Critics argue it might cross ethical lines, turning wild creatures into monitored subjects of human control. At the heart of the debate is a clash between science, privacy, animal rights, and public safety. Wildlife agencies often track animals to prevent conflicts, especially in regions where predators live near people. For example, grizzly bears near Yellowstone are tracked to reduce surprise encounters with hikers and ranchers. Tracking can also help detect disease outbreaks like chronic wasting disease in deer or avian flu in birds. Migratory species like elk, mountain lions and wolves reveal their seasonal patterns through long-term GPS monitoring. This data informs where to build wildlife crossings, when to close trails, and how to manage populations. It also helps biologists measure stress, monitor reproduction, and even predict animal responses to climate change. With satellite tags, marine animals like sharks, turtles, and whales can be followed across entire ocean basins. These insights are invaluable for protecting critical breeding grounds, feeding areas, and migration corridors from human threats. So the benefits are undeniable, but is it fair to require all this by law for every species? Opponents warn that mandatory tracking could be abused by industries, governments, or private groups with agendas. Poachers, for instance, could potentially hack GPS systems to locate and target vulnerable or valuable animals. Even well-meaning citizens might interfere with animals after learning their locations from leaked tracking information. Others raise concerns about the physical and psychological impact of collars, especially on smaller or fragile species. Collars can chafe, restrict movement, or interfere with natural behaviors like grooming or mating. And while newer devices are lighter and more efficient, they still involve sedation and handling for installation. That raises animal welfare concerns. Should we be capturing wild animals solely for tracking and monitoring purposes? Furthermore, enforcing mandatory tracking laws would require significant funding, oversight, and technological infrastructure. Not every wildlife agency has the budget or manpower to monitor hundreds of animals in real time. Then there's the question of scale: which animals would be tracked, and in which locations or habitats? Would small local populations be exempt, or would every deer, bear and bobcat need a tracker? Some critics fear that legal mandates could shift attention away from broader habitat protection efforts. They argue that saving wild animals requires saving wild spaces, not just monitoring movements from a screen. Others see tracking as a dangerous precedent in the era of expanding digital surveillance and data collection. If we normalize tracking wild animals, will we someday use similar laws to monitor domesticated pets or people? Still, many scientists believe that legal tracking could help avoid extinctions by catching problems before they escalate. The Florida panther, for example, is carefully tracked to monitor inbreeding, road crossings, and territorial shifts. Without that data, wildlife officials would struggle to guide recovery efforts or intervene during health emergencies. Bison in the West are also increasingly tracked to understand seasonal migrations and reduce livestock conflicts. These examples highlight how GPS can be used as a non-lethal alternative to culling or fencing. Instead of shooting predators, ranchers can be alerted when animals approach herds through digital geofencing systems. Such proactive measures may promote coexistence while reducing the need for deadly force or expensive fencing. In urban areas, tracking coyotes or bears can help keep both people and animals safe. Some cities now use animal movement data to close parks, issue alerts, or adjust trash collection schedules. This coordination prevents negative encounters while still allowing animals to move naturally through their home ranges. As climate change reshapes ecosystems, tracking data can also reveal how species adapt or shift their habitats. Birds, fish and mammals are changing migration routes, breeding times and elevation preferences at unprecedented rates. Real-time monitoring lets researchers respond quickly to these shifts, which could prevent population crashes or local extinctions. Legalizing tracking could also create standardized systems, ensuring data is consistent, shareable, and securely stored. But any such law would need to address privacy, animal welfare, funding, and tribal and landowner consent. Indigenous communities, in particular, may have concerns about surveillance of culturally important or sacred species. In some cases, tribal nations already run their own wildlife monitoring programs using traditional knowledge alongside GPS. Any legislation should respect indigenous sovereignty and include their voices in policy design and implementation. Private landowners, too, may push back against efforts to track animals that live on or near their land. They may view government tracking as an overreach or fear new regulations related to wildlife presence. Transparent communication, fair compensation, and voluntary pilot programs could help build trust and test effectiveness. A middle ground approach might include tiered systems where only certain species are required to be tracked. For example, endangered animals, wide-ranging predators, or migratory birds could be prioritized under a national framework. In contrast, smaller or more isolated species might be monitored only through sampling or habitat assessment. Such flexibility would allow lawmakers to craft science-based policies without overwhelming resources or infringing on local autonomy. Ultimately, the debate isn't just about GPS, it's about how we choose to coexist with wild animals. Do we prioritize convenience and data collection, or do we preserve the mystery of truly wild behavior? Can we harness technology to serve nature without dominating it, and without erasing what makes it wild? Some conservationists say tracking is no different than tagging birds or banding butterflies, it's just more advanced. Others argue that the more we try to control nature, the more we risk damaging its balance. Both sides want what's best for animals, but they differ on what protection actually looks like. The answer may not lie in one-size-fits-all mandates, but in nuanced, adaptive management rooted in collaboration. By combining science, ethics, and local knowledge, we can build policies that protect wildlife without overreaching. Whether GPS tracking becomes law or not, one thing is clear: animals are no longer invisible. Their movements, migrations, and struggles are being recorded in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. The challenge now is deciding what we do with that information and how we use it responsibly. Because with each satellite ping and each plotted map point, we redefine the boundaries of wild and free.